Hi, this is Mint Wide Angle and I am Anindya Chakravarti. So finally, coronavirus has come to town and that's taken over all conversation on every WhatsApp group, right? People have started Googling about it, what the symptoms are, how to prevent it. You've probably also got a few WhatsApp forwards telling you, take this homeopathic medicine or spray some aromatic oil in your room to ward off the coronavirus. In this video, I will try and bring together all that is known about the virus, the symptoms, etc. that we know right now. Let's start with the symptoms. If you have a runny nose and then a wet cough and you're sneezing and you don't have fever, chances are you do not have coronavirus. Remember this because it is important. Studies done in China suggest that 98% of patients get a fever. That's how it starts. About 70 to 80% develop a dry cough. Only about 25% have a wet cough, which means 75% of patients don't produce mucus droplets. And only about 5 to 10% end up sneezing regularly. So, the novel coronavirus appears to have slightly different symptoms from a regular flu or cold that people get every year. I'm saying appears because this information is based on early reports and very small studies. But the latest information tells us that the most common symptoms of the novel coronavirus infection is fever and fatigue and then a dry cough. So, when should you call your doctor? Experts say that if you have these symptoms, first quarantine yourself, stay at home, keep away from the rest of your family, wear a mask if you're coughing and sneezing, basically don't spread it. If your symptoms continue for more than 48 hours, there's no harm in calling your GP. But if you have traveled to any of the coronavirus hotspots in the past 14 days and then develop symptoms like fever, cough and shortness of breath, then you need to get in touch with your doctor immediately. You can also call the government's helpline number that has been specifically set up for dealing with the coronavirus. It's on your screen, 011-2397-8046. And if you're one of those people who like to add the country code, you can dial +91 11 2397 8046. Your doctor might ask you to get tested, so I spoke to Dr. Arjun Dang, CEO of one of Delhi's top path labs, Dr. Dang's lab, and he said it's a simple test, much like the swine flu test where your throat and nostrils are swabbed and the results are known within a day. Dr. Arjun Dang also told me that as of now, only a few designated government labs are authorized to test for the novel coronavirus, partly because this requires stringent BSL or biosafety level norms to be followed, and not every lab can do it. Dr. Dang says there are private labs which are certified already, which have the capability to test for coronavirus, and there are a few private companies who can produce the test kits quickly. So, if there is an outbreak in India, more labs could swing into action to quickly test and identify patients. So remember, do not panic. Remember that 80% of people in China had mild symptoms, and most of them either recovered fully or are getting better already. On an average, people with mild symptoms, which is 8 out of 10 people infected by the coronavirus, recover fully within 2 weeks. But there's no vaccine and no specific medicines available to treat the novel coronavirus, so the best way to deal with it is to prevent it from getting hold of you. Normally, viruses spread when someone who has it coughs or sneezes. When they do that, they release large droplets of mucus which contain the virus, which can travel up to 6 feet in front of them. The droplets can land directly on other people or they fall on surfaces like chairs, tables, books, doorknobs, kitchen counters. Obviously, if someone is coughing or sneezing right at you, there is a good chance that some of those particles might enter your mouth, nose or eyes and get into your system. You can't really do much there except maintain at least a 6 feet distance from people who look like they might have a cold. The bigger problem is when the mucus droplets land on surfaces. You might not know it, but you could end up picking up the virus by simply touching those surfaces and then touching your own mouth, nose or eyes. We all do it all the time. We rub our nose, we rub our eyes, and we're constantly touching our faces. We just have to try and stop it. And of course, wash your hands repeatedly every time you touch a surface that could be infected. And sing happy birthday to you slowly in your head, or loudly if you want. Sing the entire tune while you're washing your hands. It lasts for about 18 to 20 seconds, and that's what doctors say will get rid of the virus from your hands. This is the single most important thing for you to do. If you don't have access to clean water or soap, use a hand sanitizer with alcohol in it. It is not the most effective, and do not use it if you have the option to wash your hands. Now, hand washing won't help if the coronavirus turns out to be airborne. That happens when very fine mucus droplets stay dispersed in the air for long periods of time, sometimes well after the infected person has left a room. And someone walking into that room could breathe the virus in straight from the air without touching any surface. Now, there's very little evidence to suggest that the novel coronavirus is airborne, but authorities and doctors across the world are being cautious and saying it is possible that you can get the virus by simply breathing it in. I know that you're thinking, because even I had the same question in my mind. If most coronavirus patients don't have a wet cough and only 5 to 10% of them sneeze, then surely it's not really getting transmitted through mucus droplets. That is probably one reason why most infections across the world are being found amongst people who live in close proximity to each other. In China, most infections have been found to have spread amongst families and some in prisons where people are held close to each other. And that could also be the reason that the virus hasn't really spread as much as it was expected to. For instance, in China's Guangdong province, where 320,000 tests were done, less than 0.5% tested positive. So it is unlikely that there are a lot of people who have the virus but don't have any symptoms and are roaming around passing the virus on to other people. Unlikely, but not impossible. People who are in close proximity to each other 24 hours a day might get infected but not show any signs of the disease. Will those people pass it on to others? No one has the answer to that right now. One thing seems pretty certain, that people living with each other in close quarters are more likely to infect each other. Now, here's the good news. More than 80% of people who do catch the virus get very mild symptoms, fever for a couple of days, body ache, fatigue, dry cough, and then they start to get better, and after about 10 days, they have no symptoms. Even though the virus might continue to stay in their body, about 14% have serious symptoms, especially breathing problems and even pneumonia, and about 6% get much worse. Their lungs fail, they get multi-organ failure or even septic shock, and about 3.5% have died. The death rate is very low if you're less than 40 years old, just about 0.2%. For those between 40 to 60 years, the death rate is less than 1%. Remember that. Above that, it suddenly climbs. Those between 60 to 69 years have shown a death rate of 3.6%. Those between 70 to 88%, and those above 80 years of age have a death rate of 15%, which is very high. In fact, 81% of those who died of coronavirus were more than 60 years old. This estimate was made early, entirely based on cases in China. Since then, the virus has spread to other countries, especially South Korea, Italy, Iran, and the US, where a majority of those who have died are old. So the proportion of old people amongst those who have died might be closer to 85% by now. We don't know. That's not all. 74% of those who died had some underlying disease or ailment, such as lung or heart problems, diabetes, high BP, and cancer. So remember these 4 things. More than 80% of those who do catch the coronavirus, or I should say actually the coronavirus catches them, only get mild symptoms. More than 80% of those who've died from it were over 60 years of age, and more than half were above 70 years. And nearly 3/4 of those who died had some underlying illness. Also, scientists are hoping that, like other viruses, the novel coronavirus becomes less dangerous when temperatures rise. If that turns out to be the case, then we in India will have to count ourselves lucky that the coronavirus has arrived here after spring has arrived in most parts of the country and the winter chill is on its last legs in North India. So let's keep our fingers crossed. I'm going to leave you with one final number. Till now, the death rate for the novel coronavirus is about 3.4%. On an average, about 78 people have died every day. Compare that to the swine flu pandemic of 2009-10, it had a death rate of less than 0.02%. But it affected so many people that on an average, anywhere between 500 to 700 people died every day. So, the novel coronavirus is not the biggest killer around. Regular seasonal flu kills many more people across the world.